Getting started on taking this apart, first thing I want to do is just mention a couple of other things. Anytime I start on somebody's repair job, I don't care what it is, if I'm changing a trap underneath a kitchen or bathroom sink, or if I'm working on an 18-wheeler or a lawnmower, I don't care. When I spot things, I make a mental note of it or write it down, and I tell them what I saw and what my concerns are, what I would do if it was mine. And this is Kevin's truck, another driver I know on my job where I drive locally, and just coming in here and just looking, I see all this rust, and I told him about that last time we were working on his truck. I seen all this rust stains all over the oil pan and all across the front of the motor here, and I asked him about that. He said something, I forgot what he said it was, but something blew out up here and threw all of his antifreeze out. And I told him, so that antifreeze should not leave a yellow orange rusty stain like that. I said, you don't have any, or you ran it a long time without antifreeze with nothing but water, or somebody did, and the inside of the block is all rusted out. And I said, you really need to get that cleaned out on the inside. And he wanted me to do it, and I said, I don't want to do it, because the only way I can guarantee it, I got to pull freeze plugs out and do all kinds of stuff to make sure that block is cleaned out. So you take that to a shop, not a dealer, but an independent shop that knows you, and I know where he's going to take it. I know who they are, and take it there, and that way they have to stand behind it. And dealer's not going to stand behind nothing, because everybody is out on the road. You know, they don't get that many return people. So anyway, he's going to get that cleaned out, and then after you get the antifreeze in there, wash out this whole motor, get all that stain off of there, so that anything new comes up, we see it coming. It's not something that's old. And while I was walking around, I saw other things, and when I spot something like that, I just make a note of it. One thing here, look at these push rods on these brake cylinders, on these brake chambers. See the push rod on that one, it's still got dust on it, and it just looks kind of normal from the clevis there back to the chamber itself. On this side, we got a wear pattern on it, and I know what that is because I spotted it when we were doing some work on his U-joints. His U-joint bolts were coming out, so we took them all out, cleaned them, and put Loctite on them and put them back in. And while we were there, I saw that he had a actually it wasn't that, it wasn't because of the U-joints, because at the same time we did the front brake chamber was leaking, and we replaced that. Up here we replaced the front brake chamber up there, and so when I went around and adjusted all the brakes after that, I saw that this one was put on wrong. There's an upper and a lower position that you mount these things on, and somebody mounted it in the wrong one, and that's why that shaft is rubbing. And so it just needs to be moved, straightened out. It's still usable, it's still okay, but it's still wrong, and the shaft is kind of in a bind and hitting at an angle it's not quite right. So that's just, little things like that, you just spot that stuff. And what else did I see on here? I don't remember. Just walking around the outside, the tires, the tires are getting kind of rough. Needs to do something with that. This tire here, I don't know what causes this, but this one line here is worn out down low all the way around, front and back, all the way around. I sprayed these right here, and because that's got to come off, and this here where the oil line goes on. Sprayed that. This one has oil sprayed all over it that leaked, so I won't spray it, but there's 4 bolts underneath. Two bolts underneath, 2 on top. It's got 4 bolts that hold this thing on. I'm trying to get a light rigged up here to show that one right there is just a nut on a stud, and across from it there's the other one, and then there's 2 more underneath. I'm going to try to get, we can see one of them from underneath from up here. It's right there in the middle. So I'm going to spray those, and those are really rusty bad. They might need a torch on them. I don't know yet. We'll see. I'll let you know if I gotta put a torch on it, but I'm just going to go on ahead and start taking this thing off. We'll get back on camera here when I get that thing unbolted there. So yeah, that's all we got to do is this sensor here. That comes off, of course. Well, I may not have to take that off. I might be able to leave that on because I could probably leave this pipe on there and move it out of the way enough. We'll see. But yeah, this comes off, this comes off, this comes off. Those 4 bolts that mount on the back, and we've got an oil return underneath the bottom here. So whatever it takes to deal with that, we'll see what that's getting into. I wiped the heavy wet oil off with a rag, and now I'm going to take a little parts cleaning brush and some gasoline and go over the rest of it. I just don't like working on stuff all nasty, getting myself full of it. So I'm going to wash some of this down by hand before I get started. Okay, where am I at now? Took that pipe off. I'm going to end up replacing this clamp, I believe. We're full of oil inside there. You see that puddle? I'll drag some of that out before I put it back together if I don't forget. Now I'm trying to get this oil line broke loose. Naturally, I don't want to try to do that with this thing hanging, so I'm going to leave the unit bolted onto the manifold for now. And so we got 2 open-end wrenches here. I cannot get a line wrench to fit in there yet. So there's a brass adapter underneath there. I'm trying to get this 5/8 wrench back on that brass adapter, because that was coming loose, and this was turning. This 3/4 inch was turning on top of that, and it's still rusted. I got to break the rust loose between this nut and this tube here. I got to break that loose. I might have to put a torch on it. I don't know yet, but I'm going to work on that till I get it loose, and I'll let you know what I had to do. Tapping on the top of this with a hammer after this was turning a little bit down below broke it loose, and now it's starting to move. So I'm going to go on ahead and get that off. I mean, there's other more drastic measures I can take if that didn't work. I could have heated it up with a torch. I don't know what else to do. That's probably would have been my next step, and I don't know what I'd do after that. Last resort would be to just cut it off and replace that line, but hopefully we're okay now, and just get that off of there. Got that fitting off of there. That's worked out pretty good. We'll clean that up before I put it back on. Now I'm trying to get this return hose or tube off of there. Right in the center, that bolt that's showing up right in the center is our stud or nut, whatever it is. I think it's a nut on a stud. I got a socket, a 1/2 inch socket, 3/8 drive on the back side. There's 2 of those nuts like that. I got one on the back, and I'm going to try to get this ratchet on there, this Harbor Freight Pittsburgh extendable ratchet. I'm going to try to get that on there. I don't know if I need that much. I certainly can't get an impact in there, because I'm trying to get in underneath this hole here. There's nothing to work with there. So let's see if I can break that loose with this extendable ratchet. I got the ratchet on there in this position. It's not, I didn't break it loose yet. I just wanted to show the position I got into. It's behind the tube and on the nut with a little 3-inch extension and a deep well 1/2-inch socket. Got it off. I thought they were going to be studs. They're bolts, so they're going to be fun to find those holes, but we'll find them when I put it back on. I got that off of there. Now I'm going to start working towards getting those 4 bolts off in the back. Well, first I better get this thing out of the way. Okay, this ring inside here was tight. I tapped this one, a screwdriver and a hammer, and this one I twisted in between there and the same back here, and then they popped off. So just in case somebody's having trouble getting that off. Next time you get by a Harbor Freight store, get some of these parts holders. They're magnetic. They stick to any metal surface, and they're magnetic on the inside too, except for the stainless steel nut won't stick to it, but the steel ones do. The best $2 I can remember spending in a long time. They were on sale. I think they were supposed to be closer to $4 a piece, but they're well worth getting a few of those. Okay, I got that off and I slid it up here on top and loosened up this clamp here and just popping this boot off of there. Get that out of the way. And before you pull this boot off, put a drain pan down there. See the drain pan I got down there on the concrete? Yeah, put a drain pan down there to catch all that. Well, those upper turbo bolts are seized. They're not coming off, and I cannot get a socket on those. The bottom ones I believe I can get a socket on. In fact, I'm pretty sure I can. I just haven't tried to break them loose yet. The top ones are seized. They got to come off too. And since the wrench is the only thing that'll get it, I'm going to have to use this tool here, this induction heater, and heat up those bolts to get them off. This is going to be hard to do on camera, but I'm going to try. Get this induction heater on that nut, holding the camera with one hand, holding the tool with the other, and balancing myself on top of this tire. And I don't have a wrench handy. And I want to wrench that off before it cools down after it gets hot. I don't see any smoke coming off of it. Is this thing even working? Should be. Oh, I didn't have it on camera. Sorry about that. Usually I see smoke coming off of that right away. Usually only takes about 20-30 seconds and that bolt will be red hot and it'll come right off. I thought I had this recording. I didn't. It's only been on this bolt here for about 20 seconds and red hot. So this thing is working, but for some reason I'm not getting near enough heat up there where I need it at. Hope I don't need to bring a torch out here, but I might have to. I'll change this tip. Maybe a smaller one will work better. I don't know. The induction heater is not strong enough. It won't heat those up good enough. Something small like that works fine on, but these, there's just too much area sinking up too much heat, and it's not It just barely starts to get a little bit pink, but the wrench is wiping the corners off. So I'm going to have to do it with a torch. And all this oil out here, and I've been using gasoline to clean it up. It's going to take a little while. I got to get as much of this out of the way as I can. 2 CO2 fire extinguishers handy. There's no gauges on them, so just in case one of them's empty and I don't know it, got a second shot with another one. Got a water hose, high pressure water hose. Got to go through all that crap because the induction heater's not strong enough to do its job. But okay, so I'm going to heat that up with a torch and try to get those off of there. If I can't, then I'll just burn the nuts off with the torch, I guess. With the torch, I got that one on the left hot enough. It took about an hour, but I finally got it off of there. Of course, the nut's no good because the corners are worn off of it. This side here, I couldn't do anything. I didn't have enough room to get at it, so I just went on and burned the thing off completely. And underneath, on this left side, the one on the bottom side, that one I got a straight shot at it with the impact, and that one came off. And now over here, the one on this side, I got to take this tube and possibly this oil return tube. I got to take those off to gain access because the bolt is right up under there someplace. Still don't have it off yet. The thing is just too hot for me to try to work that socket onto it because I got to have my fingers in there, so I'm going to wait a little bit. But looking in the front of this thing, that turbo completely blew apart. And when I saw that, I came around to the front to look in the air cooler, and I got to bring my light back here. We got oil. There's oil dripping right there, which is coming off of the AC condenser, but that's not the leak. The leak is up above that on the air cooler. So that's the air cooler right there in front. So more than likely it'd be a miracle if that oil is not coming out of that air cooler because it's got a hole busted in it because of some of that turbine pieces came through this pipe and hit the air cooler. Got the last nut off. Had to take this oil fill thing off. Just take the bolt off of there and move this, slide this over. Then I could get the impact up there. I just used a straight a wobble socket, actually, I mean extension. That's what I had handy, and then a 9/16 6-point socket, and kind of tapped that on there with a hammer, and it did come off without breaking anything. So I think the only thing holding this on is rust and maybe a little bit of a booger on that stud that I had to burn off completely. So we got that off. The oil or the air cooler will have to take that off later and find out. I gotta drive my truck tomorrow. Dispatch been calling me. I gotta run tomorrow. So okay, that's it for tonight, I think. I'm gonna knock this thing loose and get that off of there.